Hello champions and future champions. Hello ChessMood family. James Gabuzian is here with you and welcome to our daily lesson. Position that you are seeing on the board is from Benoni opening. As white, Penrose Jonathan is playing against Mikhail Tal, world champion, very strong attacking style player. And this game is meant to become very famous, as well making famous the name of Penrose Jonathan. Now white has space advantage in the center and as well tries to attack on black's king. But there is an issue with one of the most obvious f5 moves. White wants to open up the line and pressure on king's position. But what's the downside? When pawn goes ahead, black's getting extremely important outpost with knight on e5 square. Now it's protecting pawns on f7 g6, very much strengthening position of black king, blocking pawn on e4, and all of these pieces will be out of the attack. If white is playing move like f6, temporarily black can keep this bishop on f8 or maybe h8 squares. Even though this is dangerous, lonely pawn is not enough. Later, black can pressure on f6 with knight d7 and queen d8 ideas. For this reason, at the beginning, starting with f5 is not that great, and Jonathan Penrose here makes a wonderful attacking idea. I offer you to pause the video and decide how to build our attack in order to prevent idea with knight e5 in future. At this moment, white's starting with pawn e5 move, trying to advance in the center, and logically black decided to capture. I'm assuming that many players thought about e5 move, and at this moment, after capturing of black, they thought white can take on e5. What's the thing? Now knight e5 is not possible, since there is no longer pawn on d6, and knight on c5 will be lost. So, pawn takes e5 turns to be a tempo, since f7 now is under attack. But suddenly black can play rook f8. What's the thing? Pawn on e5 is still hanging. If we go e6, black can take back with the tempo attacking on our queen. Otherwise, after rook f8, how to protect this pawn? If white goes d6, there is queen c6 move. And suddenly black has a threat of capturing on e5, and at the moment there's king's position is safe. This will be very much unclear. After pawn takes e5, white is planning to play f5 move at this moment, getting rid of pawn on e4 at the same time, getting rid of e5 square. Black pawn now occupies it. At this moment, after f5, it's not clear how to continue defense for black. Taking this pawn will be a suicide. White can take with the knight, creating threats of queen g3, queen h4 moves, and this monster piece next to opponent's king is decisive. After f5, black cannot take. They are also not on time to play e4 move and try to make knight e5 in future, because here white can take, and after f takes g6, queen f7 check is winning the rook and mating later on. That's the reason after f5, black played bishop to b7. At this moment, black connects the rook, and capturing on g6, followed by queen f7 check, is not that dangerous. Black could go king to h8, and later on trying to defend with rook f8. That's why after bishop b7, white plays differently. We would like to activate our knight on c3, going to e4, but what's the downside? Pawn on d5 stays unprotected. Black can take, and after knight e4, take on d5. This is also not what white's looking for. So after bishop b7, Penrose continued rook a d1, activating the last piece and taking it into the game. At this moment, world champion played little passive and goes bishop to a8, thinking that b5 pawn needs to be protected. But in real, white is not really thinking about it. And now knight c4 is possible, since pawn d5 is no longer hanging. If black takes, we'll take with another knight. Soon, threats like f6 will be very dangerous. As well, capturing on g6 and bringing all of the pieces is still an option. What you can see, in general black is pawn up, but this pawn on e5 is limiting all of their pieces at the same time. Black is stuck into a passive defensive positions. At this moment, also pawn on d5 can be an annoying passed pawn in future, and they're often advancing. After knight c4, Mikhail Tal played knight to a4, but that's already out of the topic. White has too many pieces concentrated on the king side. And after bishop a4 and pawn takes, already we can capture on g6. What's the idea? That after pawn takes and queen f7 check, black is forced to go king h8, followed by a strong knight c5 move. Already queen on f7 is not a lonely piece. Now we're pinning opponent's knight on d7 square. They cannot take, and if they try to protect with rook bd8, white's winning with knight e6. Now queen and bishop are hanging, and after rook takes, pawn takes back. White has a clear extra exchange and winning much more material right now. So let me tell you that the idea of pawn sacrifice with e5 is very strong, but it's not only happening in Benoni variation. Let's go and we will see another example. At this moment, white again has advantage in the center, space advantage, bishop pair, and we would like to begin some actions against opponent's king. How are we going to play? If white starts with f5, immediately black goes knight to e5. Piece is blocking the pawn, bishop is out of the game, and as well it's very much strengthening position of black's king. That's why at the beginning white makes idea of Penrose, going pawn e5, and only after capturing, pawn to f5 now. What's the thing? Knight cannot join to the defense, bishop is opened now and is pressuring on g6 pawn. If black here goes knight e7, we are getting a pawn with bishop c5. The knight is pinned, and after rook e8, bishop e7, rook e7, we can take on g6. What's the picture after pawn takes and bishop g6? Black's king's position is absolutely destroyed. No good pawns. Whenever we bring our pieces closer, black will be lost. Otherwise, after f5, if black decides to take, we take with the bishop. For a little price of a pawn, we very much weaken the opponent's king. After queen b7, white can continue knight e4. This is a great move exchanging opponent's king defender. If black now doesn't take, we can use this knight in future on the king side, sometimes playing queen g3 move, creating more threats. And if black takes, with bishop e4 now, we're pinning knight on c6. As well, there is no longer knight on f6 square, so pawn on h5 is not protected. After rook d8, we can use this with queen h4 move. White's attack is decisive and enough to win later on in this game. Another time we have seen idea of Penrose sacrificing the pawn, leaving opponent without a great outpost in the center, and only then going for the attack. What's the logic of this? While attacking, usually pawn quantity doesn't matter. It's more important to prevent opponent's defensive moves. Now, let's go ahead and you will get your homework position. Here is white to move. Some Sicilian setup when we are trying to attack. How to make it is the question, and you can share your thoughts and ideas in the comment section below. Jem Gabuzian was here with you. Thank you for your subscriptions, likes, and sharing this video with your friends. We appreciate it a lot. I will see you next time during our next daily lessons.